Are you wondering what's holding you back from the project success that you are hoping for? I'm going to talk about 10 subtle mistakes that could make or break your project. These are pitfalls that could ruin a project and your reputation as a project manager. In the end, I'm going to talk about one surprising common theme across all of them and how to avoid them. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, I'm Sudiba Rami and I'm PMP Certified Project Management Leader, and I'm sharing my knowledge based on experience. I post weekly videos on topics that you are most interested in. So if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button so you'd be notified of my future videos, and leave a comment if you're interested in any special topic you'd like to see a video on. Here are the top 10 project mistakes that even some of the more senior project managers make that could put your project in jeopardy. Number 1, you don't prioritize. You're working hard and diligently on a project, and all of a sudden you have an unhappy customer or stakeholder that is looking for an information they were expecting from you. You had it on your to-do list and you were going to get to it, or you had your project team working on it. So what happened? Chances are you or your project team has been treating the activities with the same priority. You take care of them as they come in. So nobody has had that conversation, when is the task due? To avoid this mistake, next time that you're assigned a task, make sure that you get the clarification on what the priority is and when is it due by. If you're the one who's assigning the activity to your project team, be clear on the urgency of the task and when exactly it's due by. Always be 2 steps ahead. Always think through what could be the impact if the activity doesn't get done in time. Also be sensitive to who the stakeholder is and how impactful are they to the project, and make sure to prioritize accordingly. Mistake number 2, you make assumptions. You assume that your project team members know exactly what they need to do and when they need to do it by, or that they're always connecting and talking with each other if they have dependencies among each other, that they're aware of the status of the work that they're doing and how they're impacting each other. You also assume that if they run into an issue that they're going to raise it to you and they're going to make you aware of it. And you'll be surprised that when you're following up on something with one of them, you find out there has been an issue that's been brewing for a while and you just uncovered it. Even if they know exactly what they need to do or when they need to do it by, sometimes they may not have the context or the big picture and how impactful they are and how their part fits in the big picture. And even though your project may be one of the more important things that they should be working on, chances are there's 10 other things on their plate that they're working at the same time. So they may not always prioritize your project against others. So always be clear and set the priority and fill in the gap of the communication, and make sure that if there is dependency across the project team members, you carry forward that conversation and communication between the 2 individuals and give them the visibility of how their piece could be impacting the entire project or one another. Mistake number 3, you communicate once. You may think just because you've communicated something once that everybody understands the expectation of them, but chances are they may not have been paying attention, or that they misinterpret what has been expected of them and make a lot of assumptions, or that they just didn't clearly understand what's needed of them. So it would be a mistake to think that you can communicate once and be done. Always remember the rule of 7 in communication. People need to hear or see a message at least 7 times for it to fully absorb. So always err on the side of over-communication. Mistake number 4, you hesitate to escalate. You think that escalating makes you or your project team look bad. So you wait, hoping that your team would find a resolution to the issue at hand. In the meantime, your due dates are at risk or get past due. In fact, that is your number 1 responsibility, to raise the awareness of when project is getting off track, so you can bring attention to those who are able to step in and help support you and your project team to bring the project back on track. Mistake number 5, you make written errors. Making spelling, grammar, or formatting errors on your written communication, such as emails or documents or presentations, reflects pretty poorly on you as a project manager. Having a polished and professional written communication is an expectation of a project manager, as perception is everything, and it gains trust and accountability of a project manager who's leading the project and bringing structure to the team. Mistake number 6, you think a yellow or a red status is a bad thing. So you hesitate in turning a status color to a yellow or a red, afraid that it might reflect poorly on you or your project team members. So you wait as long as possible, hoping that the team would solve the issue and somehow get things back on track. In the meantime, things don't, and all of a sudden your project goes from green to red because there's no other choice, and you get your stakeholders and sponsors caught off guard. It is actually your job to raise the awareness and the flag as soon as possible and bring the transparency and communication to all the right people so the team can get the help that they need to resolve an issue as soon as possible and get the project back on track. If projects were always trouble-free and they had no problems to deal with, there wouldn't be a need for the project manager. Follow the process and communicate the status as it is, and explain why is the project in yellow or red and what is your path to green, which means what is the action that you're going to take to bring the project back on track. Mistake number 7, you don't listen well. And I'm not talking about just what you hear with your ears. I'm talking about receiving and interpreting verbal as well as nonverbal communication and learning to read your audience in a room and your stakeholders and your sponsors and project teams and be able to adjust your communication accordingly. It's really important to be able to read the body language in the room, whether they're getting agitated or impatient or starting to check out and not really listening. Watch and listen carefully and adjust your communication accordingly. Are you going into too much detail, or are you too high level that you're losing the audience? If you're sensing a disconnect, pause and ask questions and bring the audience back in and adjust your communication. Mistake number 8, your meetings get out of control. If you start seeing your meeting attendees start going down a rabbit hole with a conversation and you start losing half of the audience while the rest continue to talk about something that is a bit off topic and now it's too irrelevant to what your agenda used to be, and your meeting ends up over time and you walk away without accomplishing what you were originally meant to do, chances are you're not facilitating your meetings well. There is an art and a science to facilitation of meetings. You need to come in with an agenda and specific topics and duration for each of them. If conversations start getting off track, you respectfully might write them down and parking lot them and have follow-up meetings and conversations to address those outside of this meeting. If you're interested in learning more about meeting facilitations and building agendas and meeting minutes, leave a comment below and I'll try to make another video specifically on those topics. Number 9, you're too nice and too forgiving. If you have a tendency to give unlimited chances to the team members who continue to miss their deadlines or are unable to give you an estimate of when they can provide you with their deliverables, chances are you're not holding the project team members accountable. And this could be a huge risk to the project and the project timeline and success of the project as a whole. As a project manager, you shouldn't worry about whether your project team members are going to like you or not like you. Your job is to set a process and stick to the process as a neutral party and make sure that regardless of who it is missing the deliverable or the promise, be it your project team members or the sponsors or one of the stakeholders, your responsibility is to the project and making sure that everybody is held accountable according to what they committed to and help them explain the consequences of a missed commitment. Always be respectful and professional when managing your project and your project team, and use your project management tools to help communicate the facts and status of the project accurately and in a timely manner. Last but not least, mistake number 10, being afraid to raise concerns around unrealistic expectations. If there are expectations set on the project that seem unreasonable upfront, whether it's the magnitude of the scope needed in a certain aggressive timeline or the lack of resources to make the project successful, most project managers may not be comfortable enough to raise this issue upfront and may continue to manage the project as it is until issues come up way later down the project and put the project in jeopardy. The proper way of handling this is to do your due diligence and put a proposal together of what it really takes to get the project done successfully and identify areas that may be lacking and the gaps, whether it's between the scope or the gap in the timeline needed from the original expectation, or the number of people that are needed for the project. Along with this assessment, you want to propose alternative solutions to get the project done in a reasonable time frame, whether you're extending the timeline or adding additional resources to meet the objectives of the project. As part of your assessment, you also want to know what are the major requirements that are driving these expectations. If there are external requirements or mandates or deadlines that you need to be aware of in terms of the constraints of the project, come up with alternatives of how to meet those objectives. And once you propose your assessment and adjustment to the project, in the case that it does not get approved, you've done your job as a project manager to raise that awareness, and you need to log those as risk on your risk log and make sure to track and monitor them throughout the project. So that covers the top 10 mistakes that could put your project in jeopardy. Did you see the commonality across all of them? You guessed it, it was communication. Communication is the underlying root of all these issues. According to Project Management Institute, or PMI, approximately 90% of a project manager's job has to do with communication activities, whether it's stakeholder management or status reporting or coordinating activities across the project, and many more. So if you were to walk away today with one area to focus on improving, it would be communication. If you're looking for other top skills that make a project manager successful, I have another video that I'm going to link above to make sure to check out to help you become a better project manager. Hope you found today's video helpful. If you have any recommendations and would like to see any other topics on my videos, make sure to leave a comment below. And if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to do so to be notified of the next videos. Thank you for watching and see you next week.